All right, so thank you for joining us for another Wednesday Grab and Go Growth Tactics webinar. My name's Jim Wilcox. I am the handsome devil on the left on your screen, and I own a Sandler Performance Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and with an office South Bend, so we serve the great state of Indiana. If you are one of John Vanderslice's people, he sends his regards. He had something come up and he will not be able to join us today, but he did want me to say hello. And then I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Tim Barry. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Tim.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is, I'm Tim Barry. I own the Sandler Performance Center down here in the beautiful Republic of Texas, Fort Worth style. And happy to be here as always, and ready to deliver some kick butt content. So off we go.
All right, here we go. So we got a good session today. Today's session is on belief systems. And so, Tim, when you think of belief systems, what pops into your head? This is a picture of Tim, by the way.
Yeah, especially with my head opened up and stuff falling out.
When we open up your head and say belief systems, what comes out?
Things that are core, fundamental, foundational concepts in life. That's, for me, that's what a belief system is to me. Mm-hmm. So just to give you an example, it's just a principle that I'll hinge some part of my life to.
There you go. So by definition, belief system is an ideology or a set of principles that helps us to interpret our everyday reality. So I'll read that again because I think it's important. Belief system is an ideology or a set of principles that helps us to interpret our everyday reality. So in chat, as we get going here, because we like to get your fingers warmed up on the keyboards right away, what is one belief system that you hold on to that moves you forward? And what is one belief system that holds you back? As you think about belief systems, what is, and we'll see who the self-aware people are on the webinar today. What's one belief system that propels you forward and one that holds you back? So go to your keyboard and type in now, share with us what's a belief system that propels you forward and one that holds you back. I'm curious.
Make sure that there's a little arrow next to the all panelists and attendees button. Make sure you're not just messaging us privately, that you have all attendees, all panelists and attendees selected, please.
There you go.
So Jennifer Vanderpool,
yep.
Belief. What gets measured gets done. Ooh, that's a beauty. Lisa Thompson, forward. Can't lose something I don't have. Holds me back. Imposter syndrome. That's a good one too.
That's an interesting one because imposter syndrome is very, very real. I didn't understand the term for the longest time, and then once somebody I knew talked openly about it, I found out that there are a lot of people who have that belief, and that's really the belief that I'm not as good as everybody thinks I am, or people look to me in some manner and maybe I'm not that good, or et cetera. So what else are we seeing in chat, Tim?
It's interesting, just on that, because a lot of times you'll hear fake it till you make it, but then we also have head trash regarding that as well. So other good thoughts are things that hold you back. I'm not good enough. Forward, the worst they can say is no. Forward, personal responsibility. Another belief for it can destroy confidence across the board when it's negative. Amy, moves me forward. The belief that I do my sales behaviors will lead to success holds me back. Customers want to hear from me. Let's see, forward, the make mistakes of ambition.
Wait, I don't understand that last one, Tim. Holds me back. Customers want to hear from me. Is that a belief that they do?
Yeah. Amy, if you have an opportunity, do a little clarification blurb in chat for us, because that's an interesting one. Azrael is make mistakes of make mistakes of ambition. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. That's a beauty too. You make your own success, learn from the losses, and then backward, anything dealing with head trash.
All right, so let's dive into this a little bit, and we can come back to chat in a little bit. So I think we're kind of hardwired with certain belief systems, or we've developed certain belief systems over time that, are really hard to move. They're hard to shake. I love this cartoon on the left that I found that lists out, I was looking for the glass half empty, glass half full, and this one made me laugh because, you've got the optimist and the pessimist and the realist, the physicist, the surrealist, the relativist, utopiast, skepticist, and then, yes. And so I love that. We're all hardwired, to a glass half empty, glass half full. We approach situations from that. And that's another way of saying, we get into scarcity and abundance mindsets or thinking when we look at different situations. Scarcity thinking is there will never be enough. Abundance thinking is that there's always an opportunity for more. Scarcity thinking is I'm going to compete to stay on top. Abundance is I'll collaborate to stay on top. So curious, as you look at these graphics, and now that your chat fingers are warmed up, are you a glass half full or glass half empty type of individual? Do you engage in scarcity thinking or abundance thinking? And there's no right or wrong here. I think that, I was born to be a believer that there's abundance on this earth. I know plenty of very successful people who, come from the opposite place, but they manage that well. I think those belief systems, though, can affect us, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Anybody brave enough to type in, we're talking half full?
Clarissa is a half full abundance personality. That's her belief system.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good.
So I think it's important to understand how we are wired in terms of our belief systems and our starting points, if you will, whether I'm an optimist or a pessimist, or, maybe I look at that glass of half full glass of water or half empty glass of water from a different perspective. I think it's worth understanding where we start from. So what are some belief systems for success, whether we are a sales professional or a sales manager? So I want to talk about these for the next few minutes or so. The first one is desire. It is the first and most important requirement of success. And whether you're a sales professional or a sales manager, we've got to understand our inner desire. True desire creates a willingness to suffer for a better outcome. In other words, I will do things like fail in order to win. I will be okay with the hard lessons. I will sacrifice in order to get to a better place. And I'll give you an example of that one. When I started this business, had already been a very successful salesperson, and I was willing to go back to a 12 by 14 room with a borrowed desk and crank out 100 dials, 100 attempts per day, knowing that 5 years later, I'm not going to have to dial the phone 100 times a day. 18 months later, I was not dialing the phone 100 times a day, but I was willing to suffer for that in order to get the business moving. And that is a function of desire. I think that we've got to accept and nurture that. Suffering is part of growth. There's a Sandler rule. You've got to learn to fail to win. You've got to have the desire to get out there and fail. It also enables a belief that success is possible and deserved. And so, Tim, talk to me a little bit about desire from your perspective.
Yeah, it's desire is also another word for it would be hunger. And for me, desire is it's the motor, it's the gasoline that runs through my veins that gets me out of bed to push through the challenges that inevitably come. I don't think anybody loves failure. And time again, when we poll our audiences, when we ask them to define failure, it almost always has a negative connotation. But if you've got the hunger and the desire, and you believe in your heart that you've got that commitment to move forward and blast through and learn from those failures, and fail as quickly as possible, then you end up achieving success, because it's a collaboration of it's a collection of all of those different failures, and it makes that victory even sweeter. So desire is a huge piece, and I just look at it like it's the gasoline that runs through my veins, and it's just, for me, all I need to do is light the match and kaboom, here we go. So.
Yeah, I think we've got, if we're a sales professional, I think we've got to take an inventory of our desire and be honest with ourselves. What am I willing to do? What is my commitment level? Commitment is another piece of this. I think if you're a client of ours, you may have seen an assessment where we can actually measure this. We measure this around the areas of ambition and drive. What is the desire there? I think if you're a manager, taking inventory of the sales professional's desire and their willingness to get out there and hustle, their willingness to get out there and make mistakes, their willingness to get out there and fail in order to succeed is a very important part of managing and leading individuals. This is something that we want to look deep into and say, okay, do I have that desire? Because not everybody's born with it. Now, I will tell you that, desire is not something that I or Tim can train. Unfortunately, I can't train your willingness and your ability. I can't train your desire to get up out of bed and do hard things like pick up the phone and talk to strangers or go to meetings where you've got to ask tough questions. However, you can transform that. So desire, I think, is the first important part of a belief system conversation. And when you think about belief systems, what is my desire to work through those belief systems to come up with a better outcome? Next one is actually belief. Do I believe? So do I believe that success is possible? Is there evidence out there? Are there other people doing it? Just because it hasn't been done, does that mean I cannot? What are my beliefs? And this will sound funny, but what are my beliefs around belief? Right? Do I own that belief that success is possible? Am I capable of it? When I look inward, do I truly believe that I can or should be doing it? So someone brought up imposter syndrome, right? That is a good check of, do I believe? And you can believe 100% and still feel that imposter syndrome. You may be feeling imposter syndrome because you don't believe, but you've got to check into that, because I think, depending on how we're maybe brought up in our lives or in business, there may be pressure to believe in certain ways. I may believe that success is possible, but I may be giving in to the voices around me saying, hey, that's a tall task you're about to undertake. Are you sure you want to do it? Do you think you can get it done? Do you really? One of the questions that was asked of me a few times when I was starting this business was, do you really want to do this, right? At 40 some years old, do you really want to jump into this again? And there, without a doubt, without hesitation, absolutely, because I believe that success is possible in whatever I do. This is a big one. from my perspective, Tim, and I think that a lot of people suffer from this, is do you believe that you actually deserve it? And I'm curious about your thoughts on any of this that we're talking about. So
yeah,
go ahead,
Jim, I think this is the one where people, we oftentimes get trapped because we believe, a lot of us believe we're capable of success, but the concept of are you worthy of that success is oftentimes a self-limiting, that's where we start applying the bumpers onto the bowling alley, if you will. And the real challenge for us is to recognize and have the self-awareness radar kick on, to begin to question, is that really true? So if you're asking yourself, do you deserve that success? That's a warning signal that you should be, that you've got to send out immediately, because that's a self-sabotaging belief. And if you believe you don't deserve it in your heart of hearts, then you will tend to drive your behaviors accordingly. So you'll let your foot off the gas, if you will, in your prospecting. And so if you killed it 1 month, say June was an amazing month for you, if you really believe in your heart of hearts that you don't deserve it, you'll self-sabotage and take your foot off the gas in July, and lo and behold, it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the real danger is to challenge that negative self-belief, and we all suffer from it at some point in our lives. And you can train that muscle to recognize it and then do something about it afterwards.
Yeah. If you're a Sandler client, and apologies because many on this webinar are not, you understand identity and role. It's part and parcel to what we train, but identity and role is identity is who you are at your core. Your role is what you do. And we have many, many roles, but we only have one identity. And so if you're a client of ours, we talk a lot about keeping a separation between identity and role, because if we don't, this can chip away at our belief systems. If I have failures in a role, it doesn't mean that I'm any less in my identity. In fact, I've got to maintain that. And I think this is the hard work of sales, of management, of Sandler, and what we do in training clients is really working I say this in training all the time, whether we're training managers or sales professionals or, our organizational excellence program, all that tactical stuff, that's easy, right? It's a plan that's laid out. We just got to go and execute it. This stuff is the hard stuff. So somebody mentioned in chat that I believe in abundance, but find myself in a scarcity mindset when things don't go as planned. It's doing the hard work of really digging in there. And I can't say what side of the fence this person's on or not, but it's really digging in there and saying, do I really believe it then? And if I don't, what's triggering me to go to that scarcity mindset? And I think that takes a lot of internal work, a lot of hard, self-awareness type of work. And to me, that's the hard part of sales and sales management. Speaking of self-awareness and self-assessment, that ended up being a nice segue into it. We've got to look at a couple things. Number one is, what's our attitude or our mindset, right? And this is where head trash kind of comes in to the equation, because we all have bits of head trash, and if we allow it to accumulate, then we could be in trouble. But from an attitude perspective, right, when we look through the lens of success, attitude is about our company. How do we feel about the organization that we serve or we lead or we own? Number two, what about the market that we're in? Is that market, do I look at that market and say that there's abundance within my market? And then how am I approaching myself from a mind, body, and spirit perspective? I mean, you take one look at Tim Barry and his body is the temple. I mean, that was a joke, Tim.
Temple Buddha, maybe.
But are we taking care of ourselves to keep those things in check from a belief, because these things chip away. Our attitude and our mindset is directly related to our belief systems. And if these aren't in check, then we get out of balance. And if we get out of balance, then we struggle from, that belief system. Those old belief systems are able to take over, or we drive the belief systems that maybe we don't want to from that perspective. Second thing is behavior. Are we doing the right things at the right time with the right frequency? Our belief systems are supported by our behavior. Our behaviors are what drive our belief systems. And so if we have a belief system that we want to change, we've got to get out there and do something and find the evidence to support it. One of the very dangerous games that we play is we will look for actions that support a belief system, and sometimes that's not where we want to be. And let me give you an example. Let's say that networking events are something that I'm tasked with doing. Now, by me just saying networking event, somebody on this call is thinking about how they feel about networking events. I happen to hate most networking events.
With a passion.
And I've got head trash around that. I love, it's about 50-50. I love half of them. I dislike the other half. But let's say that I really need to work on my belief system on the second half of those. I have a choice. I can go out and do them, and I can look for evidence that says, yeah, I need to keep hating networking events because they're ineffective. Or I can look for that one little thing that says, all right, maybe they're not that bad. And the next time I go to one, hey, here's evidence to support that maybe they're not that bad. And I go to the third one and says, okay, something good happened here. So eventually I can work on and be intentional about changing my belief system that way. And I can do that through my behaviors. Next one's technique, and really looking at my technique. In other words, how am I doing the things that I should be doing? Do I have areas of strength? Do I have areas of weakness? And how are those related to my belief system, right? When I look at my belief system, I may find that there's technique out there, and it doesn't have to be Sandler technique. It can be any technique, right? If I believe that that technique is not effective or not efficient, guess what? It's probably not going to be, because I'm going to find evidence to support that unless I'm very, very careful. So, Tim, any comments on what I just went through here?
No, I think, I think, again, they're all tied together, and you can, obviously, when we teach this in the Sandler training regularly. So again, I apologize to non-Sandler folks, but here's a nugget. Your attitude is driven by your behavior, and you can, your technique will follow. So the attitude is your behavior drives all of the above, and look no further than, picking up a new skill of any kind, learning a new language or exercising, for example. If you do the darn behaviors consistently, you keep doing them with the right frequency, your attitude follows. Even if you start out where you don't like the concept of, or you struggle with learning the language or getting better at working out, your attitude follows, and then you get better at it. Therefore, your technique is. So it's just it's an important concept if you're in sales or sales leadership. You've got to drive the execution of behaviors.
Yeah. So if you're a leader, right, checking in on the mindset, the behavior, and the technique of my people is paramount. Third piece is action, right? And this is related to behavior. Behavior on the previous slide is what are my sales or my management behaviors, but what are actions to further support my belief systems? Am I treating my chosen craft as the profession that it is? For me, this is one of the biggest blind spots and maybe frustrations with the world of sales in general, right? We will go out and, if I'm a professional athlete, if I'm a basketball player, I'll stand for hours at the free throw line. If I'm Tiger Woods, I'll stand for hours on the range hitting wedge after wedge after wedge to make sure that I'm within 3 feet of that hole on my approach shots. I don't see the average salesperson practicing the introduction of a sales call or the questioning strategies that they're going to use. Now, our clients do, but what are you doing if you're new to Sandler, new to us? How are you investing in your craft? How are you doing that practice? What are the fundamentals to you? For us, it's setting good upfront contracts, questioning strategies, delivering a solid 30-second commercial. And these are the things that we practice over and over and over again so that they become rote memory. When you practice these fundamentals, you solidify a belief system that that will ultimately help you lead to success.
Can I share one thing real quick on that?
Absolutely. Yep,
Here's another interesting thing that happens when you practice this stuff. It becomes part of your, the belief becomes embedded into your DNA. And here's the interesting part. When you're having conversations, you can listen with both ears because you're not thinking of the answer or spending energy and being distracted by coming up with an answer, because it's already so ingrained into your DNA because you've practiced it so frequently that it's an automatic thing. So now you can hear and understand what your prospect is telling you, and it just makes it,
and know where you're going,
and you know where you're going next. So there you go.
Yep. Next one, celebrate the effort, even if it fails. And this speaks to what is the internal dialogue in my head? How do I look at failure? Do I beat myself up? Do I say, good Lord, Jim, you're an idiot? Or do I say, okay, that didn't go as planned. What can I learn from that? You know, we talk about all the time, we've got 60,000-ish thoughts that run through our head in any given day. The vast majority of them are negative. Yet we have control over those thoughts in our heads in terms of how we respond internally and externally to situations. So we should celebrate. You know, I think it was Azrael who said, basically, what he say, acting with, making mistakes of ambition. If I tried, if I was intentional about what I did and I made a mistake or I failed, I should celebrate those, right? I should say, hey, I gave it my effort. What can I learn from it to be better the next time? And I don't know that we do that enough, and that helps support strong belief systems. The last piece here that we'll talk about is journaling and getting those ideas from our head to paper. There's something very, very cathartic about that and therapeutic about that, but it is also a great way to help us develop and support strong belief systems. And there's a million different ways. Reach out to your Sandler trainer if you need advice or thoughts on journaling. And so we'll just end with this quote from Napoleon Hill. I think we have a choice in how we look at the world, look at situations, and within our belief systems, you know, how we view the attitude, behavior, and technique, et cetera, around those. And so as you guys are getting ready to leave, warm up your chat fingers, give us one takeaway from this quick 30 minutes. When I shared this, or when the three of us shared this topic today, we said, holy cow, we could go an entire half a day on this, but it's 30 minutes. It's designed to give you guys a quick hit, quick takeaway. Type that into chat now. Tell us your takeaways from today. If you need assistance, advice around belief systems, reach out to us. I'm in Fort Wayne, John's in New Jersey. Tim is in the Republic of Texas. I guess I'm supposed to say that now?
Absolutely. Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Reach out to us, and we're happy to help. To me, you know, when we talk about belief systems, when we talk about IR theory, when we talk about success triangle, that's where the real work of success comes in. It's not the what I'm supposed to do. It's getting inside of our heads and, you know, really looking in depth. I think that's where the hard work comes in. So thank you for those who have typed in chat. Please type in chat if you're about to leave. It's about belief systems. Desire equals hunger. Thank you, Jennifer. Attitude of gratitude. Yes, James. That's a very good one. So appreciate y'all being here. We'll stick around another minute, and then we will see you guys next week on our next Grab and Go Growth Tactics webinar. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be with us.
Good stuff, James. Good stuff. Oh, that's just fun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Lisa, keep your foot on the gas. Lisa Thompson, you're awesome. Next webinar, witnessing your salespeople.
That's the next one. Oof.
Yep.
That's fun. That's
How do we witness our salespeople?
That's the thing we hate. So many of the salespeople hate the most. The dreaded ride
being
along.
Witnessed.
Yes, yeah. the dreaded ride along with the salesperson.
There we go.
Good stuff.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. Tim, thank you. We will see you and John next week.
All right.
And,
have a good one.
Everyone have a great 4th. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You bet.